welcome to my... I don't think these intros are gonna get any better. Anyway, on my Instagram a few weeks ago, I don't know when this video will be out, but I asked you guys whether it would be helpful if I shared my tips on how I deal with overeating, feeling bloated and just bad body image days in general. And obviously this isn't a replacement for like actual medical help, but I've had my fair share of feeling like this and having these days and having these moments where I do overeat, and it is normal, so don't beat yourself up if you do find yourself in situations where you've overeaten. Like, we've all gone to weddings or parties and Christmas, like there's not a soul that does not overeat on Christmas. But even in just general life, like sometimes you feel stressed, sometimes you're just emotional, and food is sometimes your coping mechanism, and then sometimes you just overeat and you don't even know why. It just happens, and it can leave you feeling not so good about yourself. For me, these are just things that just help me cope with it, because I tend to feel really guilty, beat myself up for what I've done, which is just not great for your mental health. So tip number 1 is to put on comfy clothes. Like, this just changes everything. I think this is just one of the most important steps, because if you do feel like you've just overeaten and you've got a pair of skinny jeans on that are pressing against your tummy, it just makes you even more hyper focused of your stomach and how full you're feeling. And actually you might be making those feelings even worse by paying so much attention to them. Like, it's an actual thing that people who are stressed, first of all, don't digest their foods very well. You might not have even overeaten, but you might have this, you might even just feel guilty that you feel like you've overeaten even when you haven't. But because you're thinking about it, you're making these symptoms of bloating, for example, so much bigger than they actually are. But even if you generally have just overeaten a bit too much and you are bloating, you want to take that discomfort away physically. Just feel comfortable, relax yourselves, get into pajamas, get into like an oversized jumper, a t-shirt, just something that doesn't make you pay more attention to your body and to your stomach, and just takes the focus away from your appearance, because that's probably what your thoughts are leaning towards already. You're probably thinking, wow, look at my stomach, or I don't know, I feel so fat, even though feeling that's a completely different discussion. But yeah, that would be my number 1 tip, just to make yourself feel comfortable and really get into that relaxation mode instead of stressing even more about what you've done, how much you just eaten, and the feeling of your stomach, because it's like you're just going to make those feelings even worse and bigger than they already are, and that doesn't need to happen. You're already stressed enough, so just relax. My second tip is yoga. Now, I was a bit scared to add this one in because I don't want people to feel like they have to be doing some intense strengthening yoga, Pilates after they've just eaten or feeling crappy about themselves. By this step, I mean literally just the most gentle movement that feels good for your body, because this is not a time to be doing HIIT workout or running because you feel guilty for everything that you just ate and you want to undo that process. Like, that is such an unhealthy mindset, and it teaches you the wrong things. Like, you don't want to be in this cycle where you overeat and then you're like, oh, I have to go on to a run. Like, it's a toxic cycle that you don't want to be in. You don't want to encourage that behavior. It's not a movement of punishment, an exercise of punishment. It's an exercise and movement to care for your body, and that's what you need right now. You need to give yourself that compassion, and you need to be caring and gentle and doing these movements that feel good, like physically feel good. You take those thoughts away from what doesn't feel so good. Tip number 3 is to put on a good movie or put on some good music. Like, I love musicals, they're so good to sing along to, and that just lifts your mood completely. It distracts you, and I know I've said it distracts you quite a few times, and distracting yourself from the situation in the long term is not a good thing. I don't want to encourage distraction and ignoring this situation altogether in the long term, because obviously that's not healthy, and you don't want this to be something that happens all the time, and you shouldn't be feeling this guilty about yourself every single time you've eaten or every time you feel bloated. But as I said, like, these tips are just for dealing with it in the moment. If you really are having those negative thoughts, it is good to get your mind off those thoughts and to switch on to something else. So a movie or just something positive that's will lift your mood. Putting on a song, putting on a musical, putting on a movie, dancing in your room, do whatever you want. Just putting on something that you know is gonna make you feel better, lift your mood and distract you from the way that you're feeling. Tip number 4 is to actually journal. Now, I know this might not be so appealing to everyone, and not everyone likes to write about how they're feeling, and I certainly didn't. Like, anything that was to do with me sharing how I feel to other people, like to my parents, to my friends, writing it down, just talking about anything about my emotions, like but it is actually quite important to be able to express how you're feeling and to just let it out, because if you don't express it, then you'll never understand it and you'll just constantly be feeling this way. And if you do suppress it, like, you have it just builds, like, emotions that are suppressed, they just build and build and build until eventually you just explode out of nowhere. So what I like to do is in the evening, if I have just had a bit of a weird day, shall we say, with eating and food, and I just feel like I've overeaten, I don't even know why, I'll just sit down, I'll put the lamp on, I'll put some fairy lights on, make it dark after my little yoga stretch, and I've calmed myself down. I'll write down key things that I think in the day that could have maybe stressed me out, or write down exactly how I'm feeling and how I felt when I was eating, because process, but you can't be judgmental of yourself either. So, like, there's so many times where I've just wrote down, like, oh, I feel grim, I just couldn't stop eating, I feel disgusting, but there's just so much judgment there, and you can't approach yourself with judgment in these situations, because usually there is a larger problem, and it's not that food itself is the problem. So you just do have to be kind to yourself in these situations, and, like, just because you've overeaten, it doesn't mean anything. Like, you haven't done anything wrong, and it's okay. I would say journaling is important, because especially if you do it consistently, even on good days, for example, like, even on a day where you haven't overeaten and you don't feel that crappy, you can, if you journal and write about your day, you can then compare to days that you do feel quite crappy, and on days that you have overeaten, and you can compare them and see, well, was there a trigger? Is there a pattern here? Maybe it's around your period you're overeating, but actually you notice you're eating more than usual because you're on your period, and it shouldn't be it's not something to fix, because some people generally do get hungrier on their periods, and it's normal. It shouldn't be something you, like, tear apart and get angry about. If you do write about how you feel in the moment that you are overeating, or if you do find that there are certain triggers that lead you to overeating, then you can even prevent it from happening in the future. Say if you know that you tend to overeat when you have loads of things going on. So you have loads of assignments going on, and this to do and this to do and this, like, you're just busy all the time, and you find that you overeat in those situations, then when you do get to a situation like that in the future, say in a term from now where you've got tests and assignments again, you've educated yourself and you understand that maybe you turn to food more, and that becomes your coping mechanism. But instead of turning to food, because you understand your trigger and because you understand what's actually going on and why you're turning to the food, that you won't use food, and you can use other coping mechanisms that will actually deal with your problem instead of reaching for food. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't use food as your coping mechanism. It obviously isn't the healthiest thing, and it is good to understand your issue and to deal with the problem at hand. So it is good to acknowledge that you do reach for food in certain situations, because then you understand the process and you won't You won't find yourself in this situation where you eat and eat and eat, but nothing's solved, and then you feel crappy about yourself as well. But as I said, like, I'm not in any way saying that emotional eating or eating food as a coping mechanism should be shamed, because it is a normal thing, and like, you are allowed, like, if you just want some ice cream because, I don't know, you and your friend have just had an argument, then like, sometimes it is healthier to just have that ice cream. If it's making you feel better, then it's making you feel better. This is going a bit it's a bit past what I planned to say, but another thing I'd actually suggest is actually going outside, because nature can calm you so much. And I know that sounds quite like, what's she on about, but sometimes it's just nice to go outside and take some fresh air, take deep breaths, go for a really gentle small walk, nothing like too intense, and just to clear your mind. I think overall my tips kind of share the common theme of just relaxing, taking your mind away from the negative thoughts and feelings that you're currently going through. And the more that you respond in an accepting kind of way and self-compassionate, it's probably less likely that it's going to occur in the future anyway. Because maybe you overate because you've actually been like restricting during the day, and you already have this like need to not overeat. And if you're constantly thinking about not overeating, you always have this mindset of, oh, I need to be eating less, and that's more likely to lead to binging tendencies and disordered eating tendencies and just overeating, and then you feel bad about it. So yeah, I hope the video helps you. Please let me know if you do use any of the tips, and just let me know how you feel like afterwards, because I know that doing these things have helped me in the past. So it'd be really cool to know if like it does actually help other people, because at the end of the day, like, this is why I'm doing it. It is really to help other people who do feel the same way and who do struggle with the same things, because as I said in my previous video, it just needs to be a bit more normalized. And yeah, I just do want to help more people. So if you do have any questions, then please DM me. My Instagram name is @learninglivinghappy. I'm always free to talk if you want to direct message me. And yeah, please like and subscribe and share my channel if you think this could help other people too. Oh, leave me comments or DM me on what you'd like to see more of, and what other things that you'd want me. Literally anything to do with body image, to do with weight, or just things that you're struggling with personally that you'd like me to talk about. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Forgot to put mascara.